That night, the USS Leviathan expected nothing more than another routine NATO patrol, but in the dark Mediterranean waters, Captain Alexandra Lex Morgan looked through her periscope and saw something no commander is ever trained to ignore. 3 overloaded boats packed with men, women, and children drifted dangerously across rising seas. She reported them, trusting the Italian Coast Guard to respond. Instead, gunfire cracked across the waves. Bullets struck the water. 1 boat capsized. Families screamed. Children disappeared beneath the surface. And then came the order that could end her career. Return to international waters. This is not your concern. Every regulation, every chain of command told Lex to obey, but every scream in the night told her something else. Would she risk international fallout, threaten an allied nation, defy NATO protocol to save strangers who might be gone in minutes? That choice, made in a single heartbeat, would ignite a crisis that rewrote international law and proved that sometimes the bravest order is the one you refuse to follow. What began as a routine patrol between Tunisia and Italy soon became the Mediterranean Mercy Mission, the night when one submarine commander's defiance changed the fate of nations. That night, nobody knew that Captain Lex Morgan's single decision would not only save lives, but change international maritime law forever. The USS Leviathan sliced through the dark Mediterranean waters at periscope depth, her hull moving silently beneath the moonlit surface. Captain Alexandra Lex Morgan stood in the control room, auburn hair pulled back in regulation style, emerald eyes scanning the tactical displays. It was supposed to be a routine NATO patrol, just another night in the waters between Tunisia and Italy. Captain Sonar Contact. Ryan Curtis, the young sonar technician, turned from his station with a puzzled expression. Multiple surface targets bearing 270. Small craft, engines running rough. Lex moved to his station. How small? 10 to 15 meters. 3 of them, moving north at 8 knots. Curtis frowned at his display. Engine signatures suggest overloaded vessels, ma'am. Commander Thomas Ashford, her executive officer, stepped beside her. Migrant boats? Likely. Lex straightened. Periscope depth. Let's take a look. The submarine rose smoothly. Through the periscope, Lex observed 3 severely overloaded boats cutting through moderate seas. People packed every inch of deck space. Men, women, children clinging to each other in the darkness. Get me Italian Coast Guard on secure channel, Lex ordered. They need to know about this. Lieutenant Jennifer Crenshaw worked the communications console. Channel open, Captain. Italian Coast Guard, this is USS Leviathan. We have 3 vessels in distress. Coordinates 37.45 north, 12.82 east. Approximately 100 souls on board. They require immediate assistance. A crisp Italian-accented voice responded. USS Leviathan, this is Captain Salvatore Ricci, Italian Coast Guard Command. We copy your transmission. Grazie. We will handle this situation. You may continue your patrol. Something in the tone made Lex pause. Too dismissive. Too quick. Captain Ricci, these boats are dangerously overloaded. Weather forecast shows conditions deteriorating. Recommend immediate rescue operations. Your concern is noted, Commander. But this is Italian jurisdiction. We have protocols. Coast Guard units are en route. Ricci out. The channel went dead. Ashford raised an eyebrow. Well, that was abrupt. Lex stared at the periscope display, watching the struggling boats. Years of submarine command had taught her to trust her instincts. Something felt wrong. Maintain periscope depth. Keep tracking those boats. Captain? Ashford questioned. Call it intuition, XO. Let's just make sure our Italian friends actually help these people. But what happened next would shock everyone on board. 20 minutes later, Italian Coast Guard patrol boats appeared on radar, 2 fast response vessels approaching the migrant boats at high speed. Finally, Crenshaw muttered, someone's responding. Through the periscope, Lex watched the scene unfold. The Italian boats slowed as they approached. Then something happened that made her blood run cold. The Coast Guard vessels didn't stop to render assistance. They circled wide, maintaining distance. Then one of them opened up with warning shots, bullets striking the water near the migrant boats. What the hell? Senior Chief Daniel Westbrook moved to the periscope station. Captain, are they shooting at those boats? Lex's jaw tightened. Yes, they are. The migrant boats panicked. One turned sharply, capsizing in the moderate seas. People spilled into the dark water, their screams audible even through the submarine's hull. Jesus Christ, Curtis whispered. There are children in that water. Lex's mind raced. International waters, NATO ally, chain of command, but drowning children didn't care about politics. Crenshaw, get me Captain Ricci. Now! The channel opened. Captain Ricci, this is Commander Morgan. What the hell are you doing? You're firing on unarmed civilians. Ricci's voice was cold. Not your concern, Commander. This is Italian waters, Italian problem. These are illegal migrants. We have orders to discourage this traffic. Discourage? Lex's voice cut like steel. You just capsized a boat full of families. People are drowning, Captain. Children are drowning. Our orders are clear. Return to international waters immediately, or we will file a formal complaint with NATO command. Lex looked at the periscope display. In the water, people were struggling, going under. The other two boats had stopped, people reaching toward the drowning victims but too terrified to help. Ashford leaned close. Captain, he's right about jurisdiction. If we interfere with an allied nation's coastal operations… XO, when did we join the Navy to watch children drown? Lex cut him off. She made her decision. Captain Ricci, listen very carefully. You have 10 minutes to get those people out of the water, all of them. Or I'm calling NATO Mediterranean Command, the International Maritime Court, and every news organization with a satellite phone. Your choice. Silence on the channel. Then Ricci's voice, harder now. You're threatening a NATO ally? You'll be court-martialed. Maybe. But those kids will be alive. Lex's voice didn't waver. 10 minutes, Captain, or the world learns that Italian Coast Guard fires on drowning refugees. Now came the moment that would change everything. Ashford pulled her aside. Captain, with respect, this could end your career. Hell, it could cause an international incident. We should follow protocol, notify Fleet Command. By the time Fleet Command decides what to do, those people will be dead. Lex turned to face her crew. Every eye in the control room was on her. I didn't take command of a United States Navy submarine to enforce someone else's atrocity. Now, XO, prepare to surface. If those Italian boats don't move in 60 seconds, we're going in. Westbrook, the chief of the boat, stepped forward. His weathered face showed resolve. Captain's right, XO. We didn't join the Navy for this. Whatever happens, I'm with her. Curtis nodded from sonar. Me too, ma'am. One by one, the crew voiced agreement. Crenshaw at communications. The weapons officers, the engineers. Ashford looked at them all, then back at Lex. He straightened. Then we'd better do it right. Rescue stations, all hands. But on the Italian boat, something was shifting. Captain Ricci stood on the bridge of his patrol boat, radio handset trembling in his grip. Beside him, young Lieutenant Luca Bellini stared at the struggling people in the water. Sir, Bellini's voice cracked. There are children. I can see them. Sir, please. Ricci looked at the water, then at his own hands. He'd been following orders from Admiral Ferrara, orders to discourage the migration traffic, make examples, show strength. But these weren't targets. These were people, families. A little girl's head kept slipping under the waves. His own daughter was 8 years old. Sir, Bellini pressed. Those orders, they're not who we are. They're not what the Coast Guard is for. We save lives, sir. That's our mission. Ricci closed his eyes. The American submarine commander was right. He'd been so focused on following orders that he'd forgotten his oath. He grabbed the radio. All Coast Guard units, full rescue operations. Get those people out of the water. Everyone, now. On the USS Leviathan, Lex heard the transmission. Relief flooded through her, but she kept her voice steady. Maintain surface readiness. Let's make sure they follow through. Through the periscope, she watched Italian sailors diving into the water, pulling people to safety. Life preservers flew through the air. The patrol boats moved in close, their crews working frantically. Crenshaw, get me Captain Ricci again. The channel opened. Ricci's voice was different now, tired, ashamed. Commander Morgan, we are effecting rescue operations. All souls will be recovered. See that they are, Captain. Lex paused. For what it's worth, you made the right choice. It takes courage to question bad orders. The courage was yours, Commander. You reminded me who I'm supposed to be. A pause. We're bringing them aboard now. 3 critical cases. The rest will be okay. Our medical team is standing by if you need support. Grazie, Commander. I hope we can speak again. Under better circumstances. After 47 people were pulled from the water, the immediate crisis ended. But the real test was just beginning. Lex stood in the control room, knowing her radio call to NATO command would determine everything. Admiral Francois Dubois, commanding the Mediterranean NATO fleet, appeared on the secure video link. "Commander Morgan, I understand we have a situation." "Yes, sir." Lex stood at attention. "I threatened to expose an allied nation's violation of maritime humanitarian law. I exceeded my authority. I'm prepared to accept consequences." Dubois was silent for a long moment. "I've been reviewing the incident." Captain Ricci filed a report, a very thorough report. Lex waited. He confirms that Italian Coast Guard was operating under orders that violated international maritime rescue conventions. He credits your intervention with preventing a mass casualty event and bringing those illegal orders to light. Dubois leaned forward. He also notes that you were right, and he was wrong. "Sir, Admiral Ferrara has been relieved of duty pending investigation. Captain Ricci has been appointed to investigate and reform coastal rescue operations." Dubois' stern face softened slightly. "As for you, Commander, the Italian government has requested that you assist in developing new humanitarian rescue protocols." Lex blinked. "Sir?" "Apparently your Morgan Protocol for humanitarian operations has gained attention. NATO wants to expand it, and Captain Ricci specifically asked for your expertise." Ashford, standing beside Lex, whispered, "Did we just turn a court-martial into a promotion?" But the story's most powerful moment was still to come. 3 months later, Lex stood in a conference room in Naples. Around the table sat representatives from 12 Mediterranean nations. Captain Ricci was there, now commanding the new Mediterranean Humanitarian Response Division. The Morgan Protocol, Ricci explained to the assembled officers, prioritizes human life above all jurisdictional concerns. It provides legal framework for immediate rescue operations, then addresses immigration status afterward. Separate the humanitarian crisis from the political one. A Spanish admiral nodded. "But how do we handle the political pressure?" "The orders to discourage migration." Lex spoke up. "You remind your superiors that we're military, not murderers, that our oath is to protect life, not end it, and that history judges harshly those who follow illegal orders without question." Ricci added, "Commander Morgan gave me the courage to question, to remember why I joined the Coast Guard. Now, that courage is doctrine." After the meeting, Ricci approached Lex privately. "I have something to show you." He pulled out his phone, displaying a child's drawing, a submarine, a little girl's stick figures on a boat, Coast Guard vessels with hearts. "This is from Amira, one of the girls we rescued that night." Lex studied the drawing. In the corner, written in careful letters, "Grazie, Captain Lex. Grazie, Captain Ricci. You saved Mama. She's 8, Ricci continued. "Her family has been granted asylum. She wants to join the Coast Guard when she grows up." His voice thickened. "Because of what you did, Commander. Because you showed us what courage really means." Lex looked at the drawing, at the simple truth of a child's gratitude. "We both made choices that night, Captain. You could have refused to rescue them. You didn't. That's on you. Own that courage." Ricci smiled. "I've framed Amira's drawing. It hangs in my office. Every time someone questions the protocol, I show them that picture. I remind them what happens when we forget we're human first, officers second. And it works. Every time." 3 weeks later, in Lex's Pentagon office, her new posting as Director of International Humanitarian Maritime Operations, a package arrived. Inside was a professional print of Amira's drawing, matted and framed. The note read, "Commander Morgan, this is for you." Amira insisted. "She says her submarine needs its captain to remember, and so do we. With respect and gratitude, Captain Salvatore Ricci, Mediterranean Humanitarian Response Division. P.S. We've trained 47 officers in the Morgan Protocol, 0 casualties in 3 months. You changed more than one night. You changed the system." Lex placed the drawing on her desk, right where she could see it every day. In the picture, the submarine and the Coast Guard boats sat side by side. Above them, a child's hand had drawn stars, and in the middle, one star shone brighter than the rest. Beneath it, Amira had written one word, "Heroes." Westbrook, visiting from the Leviathan, noticed the picture. "That the girl from the Mediterranean?" "Yeah, Ricci sent it." "Good man, that Ricci. Took guts to stand up to those orders." He paused. "Took more guts for you to call him on it." Lex smiled. "You know what the real courage was, Chief? It was Amira's mother getting on that boat, risking everything for her daughter's future. That's courage. We just did our jobs. Maybe, but sometimes doing your job means having the guts to say no to the wrong orders. Westbrook pointed at the drawing. That little girl knows the difference. So does Ricci. So does NATO Command. You didn't just save lives that night, Captain. You saved something bigger. What's that? The idea that some things are worth fighting for even when it costs you, even when it scares you, even when the easy answer is to look away. Lex studied the drawing again. The simple lines, the bright colors, the hope contained in every crayon stroke. Sometimes, Chief, the hardest thing and the right thing are the same thing. We're just lucky when we have the courage to choose it. In that moment, she understood. The Morgan Protocol wasn't just procedure. It was proof that one person's courage could inspire others, that standing up for what's right, even when it's hard, even when it's risky, could change systems, could save lives, could teach the next generation what honor really means. That night in the Mediterranean hadn't just been about 47 people pulled from the water. It had been about the hundreds more who would be saved because someone said no more, because someone drew a line, because someone remembered that behind every policy, every order, every jurisdictional dispute, there were human lives that mattered. Amira's drawing remained on Lex's desk, a reminder that the battles worth fighting aren't always against enemies. Sometimes they're against indifference, against cruelty disguised as policy, against the idea that following orders matters more than saving lives, and sometimes the greatest victory is simply helping someone else find their courage. The phone rang. Admiral Dubois on the screen. Commander, we have a situation developing off the coast of Greece. Refugee boat in distress. Greek Coast Guard is requesting Morgan Protocol authorization. Lex straightened. Tell them authorized. Full humanitarian response. Rules of engagement. Save lives first. Ask questions later. Roger that. And, Commander, that little girl's drawing on your desk. It's in our training manual now. Every officer in Mediterranean NATO sees it. Reminds them what we're really fighting for. As the call ended, Lex looked once more at Amira's picture. In a child's simple art lived the most complex truth, that courage isn't the absence of fear or doubt. It's acting despite them. It's standing up when it's easier to sit down. It's choosing conscience over comfort. But the real impact of that night was only beginning to reveal itself. 6 months after the Mediterranean incident, Lex stood at the International Maritime Law Conference in Geneva. The hall held over 300 officers from 47 nations. Ricci and Bellini sat in the third row. 6 months ago, I nearly started an international incident, Lex began. I threatened a NATO ally. I exceeded my authority, and I'd do it again. The room went silent, because that night, I chose between following rules and saving lives, between protecting my career and protecting drowning children. She looked at the audience. How many of you have faced that choice? Hands rose throughout the room. More than half. The Morgan Protocol isn't revolutionary, it's common sense. Save lives first, always. Then handle politics and paperwork, because a dead child doesn't care about jurisdiction. She clicked to Amira's drawing. This was drawn by 8-year-old Amira Ben Ali. When Italian Coast Guard opened fire, her boat capsized. She went under 3 times before Captain Ricci's men pulled her out. The room was silent. Captain Ricci could have filed a complaint against me, could have followed his orders, but Lieutenant Bellini spoke up, gave him the courage to change course. That's the lesson. Courage is contagious. One person stands up, others follow. An older British admiral stood. Commander, how do we balance humanitarian concerns with national security? Admiral, I'm not suggesting we abandon border security. Rescue people from immediate danger first, then process them properly. Opening fire on families isn't security. It's murder with a uniform. The admiral nodded and sat. 6 months later, 47 rescue operations, 0 casualties, 0 international incidents, 0 careers destroyed for doing the right thing. She clicked to a new slide showing Hassan Khalid. This boat captain now works as a translator for Italian immigration helping refugees. Under old protocols, he'd be imprisoned. Under Morgan Protocol, his skills became valuable. An Italian official stood, Admiral Giuseppe Ferrara, who'd given the original discourage orders. Commander Morgan, you destroyed my career. What would you say to officers who followed orders like mine? Admiral Ferrara, you destroyed your own career when you put politics above human life. But you're here. You're facing consequences. That takes courage, too. Ferrara paused, then slowly nodded and sat. Lex clicked to her crew's photo. That night, any of them could have stopped me, could have ended my career, but they trusted I was making the right call. That's the culture we need, where junior officers feel safe speaking up, where doing the right thing defines your career. She clicked to the final slide. The only thing necessary for the triumph of evil is for good people to do nothing. The Morgan Protocol gives good people the framework to act with conscience, to save lives without destroying careers. Ricci stood and applauded. Bellini joined. Then the entire room rose. But the most important moment was about to happen. After the conference, as Lex packed her materials, a young Italian woman approached. Early 30s, professional attire, warm eyes. Commander Morgan. I'm Fatima Ben Ali, Amira's mother. Lex froze, recognition dawning. Fatima, I didn't know you were here. Captain Ricci invited me. He thought I should hear you speak. Fatima's English was accented but clear. I wanted to thank you. For my daughter, for my life, for giving us a future. I just did my job, Lex said quietly. No. Fatima shook her head firmly. You did more. You showed my daughter that there are good people in the world, that courage exists, that someone will stand up, even when it's hard. She reached into her bag, pulling out a folder. Amira made you something else. Inside was another drawing. This one showed a woman in a Navy uniform standing on what was clearly a submarine. Around her were other figures, Ricci, Bellini, the USS Leviathan crew. Above them all, Amira had written in careful English, "Heroes find each other." Lex's eyes misted. She's quite an artist. She wants to be like you, Fatima said. Every day she talks about joining the Navy, about commanding a submarine, about saving people. She smiled. I tell her she must study hard. Work hard. Be brave like Commander Morgan. Fatima, You gave her more than life, Commander. You gave her hope. You showed her that one person can make a difference, that standing up for what's right matters. Fatima's voice grew thick with emotion. In Tunisia, we had no hope. Every day was surviving. Here, because of you, because of Captain Ricci, because good people chose courage, my daughter dreams. She dreams of being a hero, like you. They embraced, two women from different worlds connected by one extraordinary night. As Fatima left, Ricci approached. Quite a speech, Commander. You've started something here. We started something, Lex corrected. You made the hard call. Bellini spoke up. Fatima and Amira survived. It's all connected. Speaking of which, Ricci pulled out his phone, showing her a message. The UN is proposing the Morgan Protocol as standard for all international waters. Not just NATO. Everyone. Lex stared at the screen. Everyone. 47 nations signed a preliminary agreement this morning. Full implementation pending final review, but he grinned. Looks like your tough night is becoming international law. She thought about that. One decision, one night, one submarine commander who refused to look away. And now, potentially, a global standard for how maritime forces handle humanitarian crises. You know what's funny? Lex said. That night, I thought I was ending my career. I thought I'd be court-martialed, discharged, made an example of. And instead I learned that doing the right thing doesn't just save lives in the moment. It changes systems. It inspires others. It creates ripples that spread farther than we can imagine. Ricci nodded thoughtfully. Bellini told me something yesterday. He said that before that night, he was afraid to speak up, afraid to question orders, afraid his career would end if he challenged authority. He smiled. Now he tells every young officer who joins his unit, your conscience is your highest authority. Never be afraid to use it. It's remembering, always, that we're human first.